maybe what it really is using envy as a motivator, not a detractor, not a negative force, but a positive force. So, like I said, it's all normal. Everyone feels envy. That's what it is. But we can use that envy to maybe move us a little bit more. Maybe again, like I was saying before, adjusting our money habits. We could use that envy and be like, hey, okay, well, maybe I don't need to be buying all these other things that don't really bring me joy in my life, don't bring me happiness in my life. I just do them because they're convenient, or I've always done them. Maybe I don't need every single streaming service that's available. I can maybe pare it down to two that I really use. Always good conversations there. But what are we doing? Maybe we don't have to go and get a coffee and a donut every single morning. I can take that money and do this type of stuff. So it allows us to, maybe it might motivate us to change those habits so that we can make better money habits or money decisions, money choices than the ones that aren't servicing us. But we're doing them just because it's convenient and we've always done them. Because otherwise we just feel like if we don't take a look at stuff and look at it that way, like, hey, how can I do better, or ways can I improve? Okay, or maybe it's all right. I need to earn additional income. Maybe I need to go back and get a couple upgrades, or I need to look at different positions, or maybe I don't need a new car. I was talking to actually someone at the gym the other day, and we were just talking about. I'm like, I got 2 more payments left on my car, and I'm not getting a new car for goal is 4 years. And we're just talking about, we see all these people. You say, I know these guys that have a new car and they always got a new car, but then they're complaining that they aren't able to do trips in the summertime. I'm like, well, if you just took that car payment that you need to have every 4 or 5 years, new car, and you just took that car payment, you could do a little trip with your family. It's just where you're putting those dollars, where you're putting that money, and so it helps motivate where you're going and what direction you really want to take your life. It just gives you that second to stop. And you want to check that. And I think it's better to look and say, hey, how can I get better, versus cultivating feelings of hatred towards other people, because it seems like, oh, they're always doing these kinds of things, or they're always having those opportunities. And if you're always feeling that way, it gets draining on yourself. It gets draining on you being able to think beyond where you're at right now. It becomes draining to be like, hey, how can I push beyond this, or try and accomplish a little bit more, try and do a little bit better. If we're always putting it on other people and saying, oh, well, they just got lucky, or oh man, they must have so much debt because they're buying all these different things, and we're trying to put that person down versus rejoicing with them and saying, okay, that's great for them. This is where I'm at. What do we do to make our situation the best that we possibly can? And on that same note, too, the other piece is we don't know the full story. There's a lot of things we don't see going on in people's lives. I know we see this stuff on social media that they did their 3rd trip this year. It's a great it's a family that never fights. Everyone gets along. They probably sing songs every morning in perfect harmonies. We always see those types of things. That is not true whatsoever, but we don't know the whole story of it. Again, we don't know. Maybe that person, how hard that person worked. Maybe they worked extremely hard for several years and had nothing, and then all of a sudden they got, their business connected. Something clicked, and they took off, and now they're doing great. We sometimes we don't see those years of struggle, of challenges that person has gone through. Maybe we don't see. Maybe their parents are just paying for it, for everything, and they're playing it off like, oh, look at all the stuff that we're doing, but really it's the parents taking care of everything for them. Or we don't see how they're arguing every night at 11 o'clock at night, how they're going to pay the mortgage payment this next month. We don't see those things. We don't see that type of stuff. So all we see is what we're shown. We don't know the whole story of everything. And I remember we had this conversation with my wife several years ago, when we were first starting in business. We struggled a lot in the beginning trying to figure things out, and I'm thankful for that. At that moment in time, I was not thankful for the financial challenges we had for the first few years. However, now I'm very thankful for that, because in the beginning of those first few years, my wife would see friends of hers doing these trips or buying this car or getting, buying, just doing all these things. They're always shopping or always going out to for dinner and all this kind of stuff. And she would be frustrated. She's like, why? I want to be able to do those things. We can't do those things right now. Why? I want to do these things. We got to make, and she would be frustrated with that. And, we obviously we had some great discussions, but we were able to move ahead. Now we fast forward several years because we had those challenges. We learned the right habits to do with our money, putting money away, paying ourselves first, treating ourselves as the most important bill, keeping our debt down, not overspending, spending less money than we make, living on a budget. We figured out, we've got good at all those things. We figured out a lot of that stuff. So several years later, she ended up, talking to some of these friends, and they're all talking about how much debt that they have, and they're not sure, are they going to lose the house? And people are saying all these things. And in her mind, she came back and told me, she's like, I'm so glad we did this, even though as painful as it was. Now we're able to do these trips, and we pay. We paid off right away in the cards, and we're not having to struggle with our finances. We're okay. If we need something, we can buy it, and we're in a good position. So sometimes we just don't see those things. We don't see what other people are going through or the challenges that's happening. So sometimes you just have to just recognize that all we see is all we see, and there's other pieces to the pie that we're not a part of, and we have no idea.